Hey guys, what's going on? This is part two, and it is going to be somewhat definitely longer. If you, so you can, whatever you want to do to get to the good parts, but I really want to go down here for take our time, do an example with expectations, and archive this in a way after you took a first good look at it and come back to this and see if it's, on record what you need to know about taking a DBQ test. That's going to be on here and there. All right. My warnings to you that a few of you will hear. All of you are very smart. Will be very prepared for this test. We get dumb when it's something that's timed. Some of us, just really the pressure of time. We're not, good at just taking, when something that says that, like you see the countdown clock or the beginning clock, we kind of freak out. It's normal. All the cool kids, they say they work good under pressure, but for most of us, it really is taxing when we have a time test and we're under the pressure of that, like a finishing up, putting all the content. You made a mistake here. You want to retype something. So it's okay. So it just makes you into a nervous idiot. All right. So try your best for being calm. And I thought about this, that it starts at 2:00. You guys will be able to sleep in and have some time to pre-study before the test starts. So it's kind of good that it's in the afternoon and you should be well rested for this. So that I'm kind of happy about that point too. Again, I think there's a lot of advantages if you're able to take this test and you're mentally kind of, fit for this. So, all right, cool. And we're just going to go down. I'm not going to do the presentation mode because sometimes I want to go here and there, open up the PowerPoint and see that you guys see for the example here. So, very good. Now, first caveats. Your essay is a rough draft. I cannot say this enough that I know some of you obsess over. You will look at my essay, my sample essay. You could make corrections. You could rewrite it. You could do a better job on my rough draft sample essay. You check all the sample essays that got good scores, passing scores. They've got, the maximum amount of points on a rubric. They're rough drafts. There are mistakes and mechanical errors on there. And there may be even some slight content mistakes. Maybe they said Bacon's Rebellion was 1675 when it was 1676. No big whoop. It's a rough draft. It's about your content, your organization, your flow, having an argument, answering the prompt. Those are the things that the graders are looking for. They're not looking for something pristine, nice, that belongs to a museum. Your English teacher would be like, oh, this is the perfect essay. So it is not. There will be misspellings, some grammar and sentence awkwardness. It's fine. It's okay. But here's the warning. Don't do the following. Do not do the following. All right. Keep misspelling words you should know. America, Lincoln, Washington, etc. All right. Use personal pronouns. I don't know what it is that some students feel like they always need to use personal pronouns in any type of writing they say here, because I don't know, they can't begin it with the subject. They can't begin it with something else, or they always, is making it informal. I, you, and me. Use slang and text syntax, humor and sarcasm. Like, LOL, it's like us having no TP in stores. Stay formal. Get off of that. Do not do that, please. Please, 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 please. Keep it formal, like you're doing your ACT, like anything for a history class. Like it is something that's going to be presented to, your final testing and grades, that it's not to your friend, it's not to your buddy. All right. Now, you say to yourself, but Mr. Price, it's not in the rubric. Look, it puts a bad taste in thoughts in the grader's head. This student is not college ready. This student has a middle school or mentality. This student is one of those Zoomers who can't write. They stereotype you. They think you're halfway literate. They think that like, hey, where did this person learn to write? And don't worry, I will promise you, even this year and every year, students will submit essays writing like, well, I think George Washington was the best president because, you do know he chopped down that cherry tree and he couldn't tell a lie. You know that. They get essays with that kind of language in them. Every year, they'll get some after May 15th, guaranteed. Not by any of you guys or ladies. You will not do that because I've been yelling and screaming at you. Do not be informal, be formal with your writing. But I have to say that because sometimes we get into bad informal writing habits. We usually don't get into formal writing unless you're in your college classes or you're doing writing for my class or your English class or in high school, okay? Yes, they must follow a rubric, but they're not robots. They usually are 40 plus teachers, meaning that they're 40 years old, once again. So, so they are like, middle-aged professors who want you on your side by displaying scholarship. Be in their shoes. You be the grader. Just be there. I just want to give you an example. What would you think? Opening intros. Who has failed already? You just tell me. I know they follow the rubric. They actually will try to be, especially this year, as forgiving as possible. But just think about you're grading, several hundred essays. They're going to have 2 readers. I know at the very least. I think America's great. It has always been good to everybody in the world. This was proven by us whooping Hitler and the Nazis in World War II. You laugh and you might think like, I would never write something like this. Again, things like this get submitted every year. As opposed to United States emerged as a superpower and a more involved country in international affairs after 1945, saying a new course in U.S. foreign policy. Sounds straightforward. Sounds someone who's learned. Sounds someone who's studied history, knows about scholarship, knows about formal writing. It just really, it's expected. Example 2 is expected. All right. That's what they're assuming in their heads. So please look at these 2 and think about working on your writing. We all can work on our writing. Nobody is a perfect writer. Some people are a little bit more naturally better equipped at, but there's always good rewriting. It's not like people are perfect writers. This is not an English essay. This is not an English essay. It's not an English essay. It's not an English essay. I cannot say that enough because like, oh, Mr. Price, this is how we learn how to, write an essay in English. Well, there are going to be some similarities, but there are going to be some differences. So this is not an English essay. And I know you guys are accused of, well, what does Mr. Price know about writing? I don't know, maybe because I've been teaching this, well, including the years that I, in my old school too, maybe now a total of 9 to 10 years of teaching AP, helping kids out on their college essays and their essays writing. I know I'm not an expert. I know something about it through experience and practice and working on this and writing essays myself. I do know a little something. I know some of you like, oh, I know how to write an essay. I know what to do. My past English teacher says I'm the best writer around. Oh, okay. All right. I get you. So good spelling, good grammar, stay formal, good organization. Let it flow. Let it be the intro. Let it be the body, supporting evidence. Let it be the conclusion. I've said this on the slides. History essays are boring. They're methodical. They're formulaic. It's not some journal writing. It's not big reflections. It's not creative, as you know by reading the textbook. Stay formulaic. Stay dry. stay factual, stay organized, stay consistent, stay like where it just flows from one paragraph to another. Don't subvert expectations, by, trying to put a thesis somewhere where they have to, be like Sherlock Holmes to stick it out. Do not do this, please. And the reason why I yell and scream at this, I want you to pass. If you do these, see, the content. If you do the things I ask of you, you will pass. You stray away, do something else, I'm sure it's going to be a challenge for you. You might get lucky and you'll pass like that. So, I don't know. So, and I'm sure you're one of those cool kids. I didn't listen to Mr. Price. I didn't study. I didn't read. And I still got 5 out of 5. Because I know you. There's always those cool kids that will always deny they didn't do anything and they got a 5. They'll be all around. If you want to listen to them, you can. They are definitely, plenty of those around, and you will hear that too. Even after this test, you get the scores. Oh, I didn't study. I didn't do anything. I didn't learn anything. I didn't read one thing, and I still got a 5. Like, hey, good for you. Excellent. Let's take a look. See, final essay should look similar to this in the end here, and I have this on here, and we'll take a look. It should look like very similar to this. I think this one had the traditional 7 documents. And again, I'll probably share as much as possible with you guys what it looks like. Just aesthetically, almost in a way, we're just taking like a little look about, how does the documents appear into the, test here. So yes, go ahead and don't link that up for me. So that would be good. So I've expected that. And did I close that out? Oh, here we go. All right. So it should look like this in here. All right. So it's a westward expansion document, context, thesis, context, thesis, context, thesis. Don't be trying to put a thesis in your conclusion, thesis in the first sentence, in your intro paragraph. I know you can do that. I know you're Norman Mailer. I know you're F. Scott Fitzgerald. I know that you're like, the greatest writer around and you're very creative. Don't do it. Just put the thesis towards the end of your first paragraph. May not be the very last sentence. Please do that. Don't make them work for a grade. Be boring, be formulaic. Context, there's still probably a few of you still don't know, last week, and, Game of Thrones, previously on The Walking Dead, the Star Wars scroll, you're thinking about 20 years, like in the time you're setting the stage, you're coming in from the universe down to the, Milky Way galaxy, down to our solar system, down to our planet. I don't think you want to go that far out, but you're more like probably around, you want to get centered around that's near about what is this setting? What has been going on that, your prompt is related to? This is 2 points right here. And then you see how documents are kind of cited in here. And notice one thing, the documents are cited in the body, not the intro or the conclusion. Mr. Price, is there a proper way to cite our documents? Not really. It's not even, nobody's going to take off for like this. It helps the grader what documents you're referring to. There's no points taken off for, maybe you, I don't know, did something to this document. You didn't put it at the, it's not in caps. It's not like that. It doesn't matter. You're just putting that in there really quick, like, DOC 1, DOC 2. After your sentence that refers to the documents. That's all you have to do. It's no formalities. Nobody takes points off of that. It just helps you, your grader, start checking all points about doing the hippo on the document, doing the point of view, kind of interpreting the documents and using it to refer to your thesis, which one you're referring to. They know the documents. Let's just say you even leave it out. Let's just say you don't even have to you can still pass the test. This helps the grader. We want to help the grader because we don't want them, they're seeing all these things here. That's why good students do this. They just put it in there. They have some kind of, citation that's inside in there. This is what it should be. Again, thesis here, I just want to say, although America's westward expansion inspired some positive political changes for whites, its negative impacts on American Indians and African American slaves were even more significant because they promised increased sectionalism and set the stage for the Civil War. Yeah, what I love about this is that they use two reasons, but they always take a stance. Your thesis should always be argued. Somebody should be able to oppose your thesis statement. You should be able to argue your thesis statements. This is a claim. This is a thesis. It's an argument. That in history, in this APUSH test, it's an argument. All right. So do not try to pick. I keep on saying this, the reason why I'm on this intro, because the thesis in this intro, it just sets the stage for the rest of your essay. Are they interested in reading on, or do they want to vomit? Literally over what you just said. Is your thesis too general? The westward expansion affected American life in an economic sense, a political sense, and a social sense. Terrible, pukey. Like saying, let me throw up. Let me just, again, be sick. And I say again, right now, and I don't want to read any of this, the driest of dry thesis that's just too general. But Mr. Price, in English, yes. That's say, this is APUSH, this is history. You want to be, I've said it before, generally specific. Maybe you don't want to put all your cards and be too specific with specific events. Nat Turner's Rebellion, in 1831. You say something like, Seneca Falls, 1848. That's more your body, your evidence. So you don't want to be too specific, but I love this in the stage of the Civil War sectionalism. That's pretty specific. You're saying something there. All right. It's really, really good. So, I mean, and again, is it a perfect thesis? No. Could it be improved upon? Yes. Let's go back, my friends, and start, this. All right. Sample prompt. All right, follows. It's edited for 5 documents. Usually it's 7. That's why you'll see a lot of examples a little bit seem like to be, maybe missing a little something, or somebody might say like it's 7. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through a DBQ essay. Probably lost some of you are already, forwarding here and, trying to get things. But I think it's good to understand before you, take your driving test, what are you, expectations for that? Like, what are you expected to do to prove that you get your license? Same reasoning here, as we see here. And don't worry, all this will be shared with you along with this video as well. All right. So this is an edited form. This is what you will see on the screen instead of written now this time on a test. And instead of like the suggested time, of 60 minutes, it's going to be just a total time because it's one thing, 45 minutes. All right. So you'll have a suggested reading time for it. It probably will say that. It'll probably say that it's suggested that you spend 15 minutes reading. Suggested. It may take you 10 minutes. It may take you 16 minutes. Nobody is counting down, on your reading time of the documents and analyzing them. Nobody. It's 45 minutes in total here. 45 minutes in total. And they'll suggest to you 30 minutes writing for your response. It's a good guideline, and you'll probably be around that anyway. All right. What follows is standard jargon. Spell expectations around there. What follows is standard jargon for the test here. They will tell you what they expect. They expect a thesis, contextualization, use of documents, explaining the documents and outside evidence. And that's the big thing. And complex understanding. And AP Lord, a complex understanding point, the last point to try to get 10 points, is what a lot of people have called, you see this on the videos, the unicorn point, meaning that it really does not exist. They don't want to really give you a perfect 10. They don't mind passing a lot of people. They don't want to give you a perfect 10. You probably think that you have complex understanding, but in their interpretation, you do not. Some of you will not even get to your conclusion. You can still get a 7 or 8. What? Yes. Some of you might just have one sentence for your conclusion. Yes, you can still get a, matter of fact, you may even get a 9 if your essay is that pristine. That's good. It has a, it answers a prompt, has a great thesis that you are in. You have proven a lot of evidence, good integration of the documents. Yes, you can. That's not necessarily so. I would, again, I will start my conclusion at the beginning. No. Intro. Body. Conclusion. Simple as that. Just like your paragraphs, really. All right. So here we go, sports fans. So, and here is the prompt here. So I'll kind of get my fat face a little bit more out of the way. All right. So, to what extent was organized labor successful in improving the position of workers in the period from 1875 to 1900? All right. Usually when we read this once, we probably don't even know what we just read. It's 45 minutes. We're already getting short of breath. Breathe again. Read it again. Take it slow. That's what that blank sheet of paper or something on there that you can write, or maybe you're typing, maybe take a few notes on there. To what extent was organized labor? Now I'm beginning to think. Organized labor. Unions. Just a phrase for unions. Successful. Were they successful? I'm beginning to think I need to approach this in an argumentative way. Take a stand. Are they successful or are they not? And improving the position of workers. All right. I'm there. I'm already thinking in my head. Now I get a date range from 1875 to 1900. It hits me immediately like it should hit you, like a million bricks on the head. This is the Gilded Age era. This is the Gilded Age period. This is laissez-faire economics, industrialization. It will go off in your head. It should. This is why coming to the test prepared is going to help you tremendously. You will have a lot of a priori knowledge of what you learn in APUSH history. One or two of you will be like, what? Because they're ill prepared. They've been a zombie throughout the year. That will not be 99% of you. Will have a pretty good understanding. Watch for some of these, most of these things say evaluate, of course, because they already want you to take a stand. And watch for the and. I don't know if they're going to do this in this show prompt, but you have to do answer, address, or argue two parts of the prompt. Be very careful of this compound sentence here if in a prompt, all right? Just one or two notes. I write, Haymarket Affair, Knights of Labor, American Federation Labor. That's all. You don't have time to do a lot of, note taking. I don't want you to dwell on a prompt. Just say, hey, kind of got where we're going. And by the way, here's what's great about the DBQ. I'm a little bit I know what Mr. Price is saying. I do know a lot about this prompt is throwing me for a loop. Your documents will help you learn more about the prompt. Reading, analyzing, looking at that. Isn't it amazing, again, that this is how helpful the DBQ essay can be. All right, that will help you. I'm already thinking it was not successful. Why does Mr. Price not think? Because this is the Gilded Age. Labor unions are down. The next period, progressive era, labor unions are up. So you see my hand, labor unions are up. All right. 1920s, down. Come back to FDR, the Wagner Act, up. Patterns and change over time that you see. Documents may change my mind. Usually 2 or 3 will support or 2 or 3 will not. You're giving 5 documents. They're all not going to be probably the same position. All right. 2 or 3 will be on one side of your thesis or some type of perspective, or 2 or 3 are going to be on the other side. You're going to see. You're going to be key that you're going to categorize which one is, that's similar and which one that is like, that's different. And you're going to be have to group them. There may be one that's a little bit maybe in the middle, So that's what they do. There is a method in their madness. They're not just putting, 5 documents. They're all saying the same thing about labor unions during this time. They're all interpretations for that. They're not going to do that. And it's just not that simple and straightforward. Here we go. All right. So we've got that, and we'll go down here. Let's start a reasoning, examining, take a few notes. All right. Documents will help us understand the prompt. Take a few notes on here, whether that be typing or you just know on here. Just take a few notes. You can't take a lot of notes. You might have to reread again. You're looking at like about 10 to 15 minutes. Don't, get overly stressed about that. Just making sure that you're just not, reading words here. Have a paper already that says Doc 1, Doc 2, Doc 3, Doc 4, Doc 5. Why go through the trouble? Have a good paper out already that you can understand, or something that you're, typing up on the other side. If you're one of those, like, if it looks like the AP screen can be easily like, you can, cascade your windows as it, from side to side. And you're like, all right, Doc 1, Doc 2, Doc 3. Let's again. I would not be able to do that because I'm doing that, but make sure that you're kind of, it's already labeled for you, Doc 1, Doc 2, Doc 3, Doc 4, Doc 5. So you don't have to take extra time for that and take a few notes. All right. So go on thinking one doc may not fit. That should be may instead of, may not fit what you want to do. You just don't understand it. You want to it'd be great to use all 5 because one's insurance. Just use 4. If there's one that cartoon you don't understand, one is that I don't know what language they're speaking, ditch it. You don't even have to worry about it. Go on to the 4 that you're going to use potentially in your thesis. So you shouldn't be thinking of a rough thesis in your head in a little bit in a way here. Okay? All right, cool. All right, got that. So maybe a repeat here. Okay, so in the thing, I have to take a look at that. So, but don't worry, I'll do that a little bit later as far as, repeating the slides here. All right, here we go. Here's document 1. What do we do? What I've always do, any document, anything that we do here. We look at the source. First thing it does, may not tell you anything at all because you do not have maybe the knowledge that I've had. I'm not trying to brag about that. It's just because I specialize in history. You guys specialize maybe in some other subjects, for sure, like that. But it will kind of clue me in, and it may clue you in. It may not in a way. New York Times, July 1877. All right, New York Times, just a general newspaper, but 1877 to me make me think about the Great Railway Strike. That's one of the reasons why Reconstruction ended. It's the first big nationwide strike between, the Baltimore, Ohio, lines of here. So I'm already thinking it's about the Great Railway. Let me read. The strike is apparently hopeless. Sounds negative. It must be regarded as nothing more than a rash and spiteful demonstration of resentment by men too ignorant or too reckless to understand their own interests. Yes, it's not the most positive spin here right now. But if the strike on the Baltimore-Ohio road is a foolish one, its history up to the present time shows that those who are engaged in it are not only bold and determined, but they have the sympathy of a large part of the community in which they live. So I'm already thinking it seems to be a little bit more sympathetic to the strikers, and it's going to kind of a little bit oppose my thesis that like, labor unions are not, they're not at the height of the strong point. Don't worry, I can still use that, in my body here. Because again, I can use the ones that oppose my thesis, and I'll see reason why they, these documents tend to have a wrong interpretation in my viewpoint. So that you're going to see that in here, handled like that in here. Let me go ahead and delete that out before I forget. So just want to say, all right. So now, I'm sorry, I just went over to document 3. I would like to, hit the PowerPoint right now for document 2 here. So if I, on here, so, and, all right. So, and we'll take a look at this right now. Okay. Here we go. You're going to get a cartoon. Maybe it's not a cartoon. Maybe it's a graph. Maybe it's some kind of like chart you got to interpret. Maybe it's something else. They don't want to just give you all written documents. What you guys see probably puts a smile on your face already in this, video. Thomas Nast. You're thinking in your head already for some of you. Already. Boss tweet. Right? Maybe for some of you are high learning, you're thinking pro-Republican, anti-immigrant. I always draw those stereotypes of the Catholics and the Irish. He's pretty much always, even during the Grant scandals that he was, pro-Grant on here. Very influential artist, very much universal. A lot of times AP may put his cartoons on here, but you already know what Thomas Nast viewpoints on things on here. So I have to again, picture does attract me, but I'm looking at the title and it's going to be in plain English, and you see this kind of capital, they will put words on here and tell you about always killing the goose that lays the golden egg. Communistic statesman. I'm already thinking this is a document for me. They're saying, what do we know that what people's perceptions about labor unions? They have radical thoughts, radical ideas, radical people, revolutionaries. So for the general public, they're trying to, do something that is radical. It's filled with, immigrants that want to destroy the American way of life, disrupt it without responsibility, nothing in it. After all, it's too bad. Now I thought he was just full of them. All right, this is an analogy, the kind of parable or, on the fable that the goose that lays the golden egg, that you get greedy, that, hey, I can't just take his time just to keep laying golden eggs. Let me cut it open and get all the golden eggs now, instead of being patient. And now, you really find nothing in there, and you've killed a goose that was going to make you potentially rich over time. So labor unions, Thomas Nast is trying to say, you're trying to protest for more money, better working conditions. And he's probably saying on a base level, that's fine, but you're going too fast. You're doing this like the way that's going to kill the goose, the businesses, the money makers that potentially will let you become the manager, become the kind of like supervisor, move up from the poor working class to the middle class. You're sabotaging yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot by doing this, by being an active labor union, listening to radical ideas that you should own the factories, you should be in control. Just a great, great cartoon for this essay. I just cannot say enough about that. So that I will put into the slide. I just want to get a kind of more of a closer picture that you guys could just see on this video that we can analyze. So I'm already thinking that I'm going to use this, that cartoon for sure to, to support my argument in here. Document 3, all right, on here. So I'm looking here. And you know what? I'm saying to myself, this source, Western Union Telegraph Company employee contract. Year 1883, not too exciting or eventful. That comes, even to my mind. I know about the 1880s, Sherman Antitrust Act comes on 1890, 1886, Haymarket, but it's not even there. But contract, it kind of like gets me intrigued. So I don't know too much, but I'm going to have to read and take notes, like that, whether it be mental, let it be, literally that you're taking notes. I, in the consideration of my present reemployment by the Western Union Telegraph Company, hereby promise and agree to this said company that I will forthwith abandon. You're going to get a lot of, language that's 18th century, 19th century that you don't clearly understand. Forthwith, that he will abandon any all membership, connection, or affiliation with any organization or society, whether secret or open, which anywise attempts to regulate the conditions of my services or the payment thereof while in employment now undertaken. Jumps out to me, this is already a yellow dog contract. This is a person who is not want to join again, I'm going to work and not join a union. And this company is making them sign this contract before they take employment. I hereby further agree that I will, while an employee of said company, render good and faithful service to the best of my ability and will not in any wise renew or re-enter upon any relations of membership whatsoever in or with such organization or society dated 1883. You sign, seal, and deliver it. And this is a grounds for automatic firing because you're going to a meeting, about a union of telegraph operators or workers. It's grounds for that. So it's a yellow dog contract. So, even on that surface, title source does not help too much. I see the contract and I will kind of correct that there. Oh, yellow helps my argument. Again, it's all about grouping them. All right, we will continue on here. So now we'll get to the fourth document because we only have 5 here. And again, this is for the video. For you guys, it's more instructional. So I'm taking more of a methodical time. I'm pretty sure maybe some of you guys are for into this video and say, hey, let's see if I understand it. Document 4 doesn't look like a reading or writing here. So let me try to Coroner's list of the killed, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, July 7, 1892. Now, for me, automatic, because, my knowledge, this is the Homestead strike, so, and we know how that ended. And I'm already thinking Carnegie Steel Plant, Henry Frick, he is the supervisor at this time here while Carnegie is away in his, vacation home in Scotland. And the following are the names of those killed yesterday as furnished by the coroner. So it looks like a Pinkerton detective, a striker, a laborer. It's really kind of a mixed bag showing you that there's a lot of mixed people killed, that you have really officials of security. The Pinkertons are private security firm. They're not the official police, but they're killed. So it shows the guards and residents. I don't know if I'll use this. It's kind of both ways. No way that shows here, but I don't think this is good publicity for sure. So I'm kind of hesitant about doing it. Maybe I should use, because it really is showing you that murder. Nobody likes people being dead, no matter who it is. And yes, it shows that we don't have any responsibility who is fired upon. We just have a list here. The documents present to us of people killed. That is not a good public, presentation. People dead after like a strike, no matter what. All right, here we go. Get to the last document here. All right, so document 5, testimony of Samuel Gompers. Well, before a commission established by the House of Representatives. We know him with the good union, Samuel Gompers, the American Federation of Labor, that eventually, that's going to form with the Congress of Industrial Organizations, AFL-CIO. But this is the good union, the bread and butter unionism. All they want, hey, look, all we want is increasing wages, shorter hours, more safety. That's all we want, just bread and butter unionism. We're skilled workers. We're not the knights of labor. We're not the eventual industrial workers of the world. We're not radical. We know how to work with government institutions. All right. The working people find that improvements in the methods of production, see that wording, and distribution and constantly being made. And unless they occasionally strike or have the power to enter upon a strike, the improvements will go to the employer and all the injuries to the employee. So here's Samuel Gompers defending the workers, right? You know, and again, he was part of a union, so he knew about the power of unionism. So he's not just, you know, just letting, you know, the capitals of industry just take over and government just support. He wants to defend workers' rights. The American Republic was not established without some suffering, without some sacrifice, and no tangible right has yet been achieved in the interest of the people unless it has been secured by sacrifices and persistency. All right, well, he's arguing for the unions, justify them. Yeah, look at the date, though, 1899. I'm thinking to myself, this helps my argument a little bit, all right? This counts my argument for union growth. You get it? And support. Because it looks like, you know, finally, you know, the government is looking out for like the unions. They invited one of the major leaders to appear before the House. That's very atypical for the times. But it is really, you know, I will use, because I'm thinking 1899, it really takes that much time before, you know, people start saying, well, maybe they do, maybe like, you know, on the large side, they do have some rights that we need to respect and look at. They're not a bunch of radicals, revolutionaries and people who want to just stir up trouble for everybody. So again, so I use this. All right, cool. I've kind of gathered my thoughts and I begin. All right. So my first paragraph. All right, I begin my first paragraph. Heed my warnings. Oh, by the way, hang on a second. Let me go back before my first paragraph here. Let me just go ahead and do this. Now, the crucial part of your essay. My biggest worry with all you guys is your introduction. Work on having a good intro. Again, the grader won't make the grader say, hey, I want to continue on. I don't want to just skim through the body. I kind of already know the grade for this person. I already know the points for the rubrics I'm going to score. They're not going to really, you know, delve deep into your essay if this intro is really messed up. It's giving me historical context. All right. It's a thesis that addresses the prompt with a claim argument. Look at my video. Was it good or not so bad thesis? You know, and that's not the most clever language there, adjectives on there. But some theses are passable. It's a rough draft. It's okay. It's not the best. It's not like, you know, oh, pristine, perfecto, you know, the piece de resistance. Let's again. So history writing is born in formulaic. So what do you want to do? General. Start in a general broad sense with the context. Bring it down to your thesis statement. All right. So don't try to be fancy. Put the thesis someplace else. Evidence for your support. Linking back. Always linking back to your thesis. Remember your thesis statement. Remember your evidence linking back to the thesis statement. Documents go in there. It's integrated in there. You might see some essays with documents, maybe in the intro or the conclusion, but I really don't advise that. But I mean, they're trying to sneak it in there so they can, you know, include all of them. You only have 5. You really require, you can still get a almost perfect score by just using 4. Your analysis is complex like that. And again, I put the unicorn down there because it may not be doable. You may not even have enough time. All right. And this is why I jumped to before. First paragraph. And again, rough draft. I didn't really change anything here because I want to leave it a little where you can say, well, after looking at it, I can make improvements on this essay. I'm sure you can. I'm sure I can. If I rewrite it, this is just what you come up with on the fly in your time that you had to write this. But it's context, it's thesis. Context, thesis. Context, thesis. Let me get my 2 points. Let the grader continue. Second Industrial Revolution, beginning after the Civil War, was one of the most expansive times in American business history. Businesses are raising massive amounts of revenue by creating corporations and consolidating their share of the markets through trust, holding companies, and pools. Okay, Mr. Price did not just use the word monopoly. Again, you're showing some outside knowledge. You're showing context about what this prompt is about and what time period. More people are moving to the middle class. Transportation technology are advancing. Automatic signals, air brakes, Bessemer process, the telephone, electric light, typewriter, and internal combustion engine expanded use of electricity at the turn of the century. Maybe it's not that detailed that you don't remember all those facts. That's fine. That is totally fine. You can. It doesn't have to be as much in here as me, but I'm just trying to give you, somebody to say, hey, this person knows history. Yes, I do know history. I know it very well. Even world history. I know you guys are surprised by that. So that I'm not limited. There were economic downturns in 1873 and 1893 for the most part. But for the most part, great employment opportunities. I mean, they want cheap labor. They want immigrants, but it's just really a lot of jobs around. They want you to cross the picket line sometimes, for sure. But there were a lot of jobs that was expanded. Nevertheless, with a laissez-faire attitude by the federal government, profit-driven motives, and a survival of the fittest attitude, that's going on here, the social Darwinism, these, in business, workers are being exploited and taken advantage of more. All right. Now, here's my thesis. I always use the counter formula, although that's why I would advise you to start practicing with, because they love to see counterpoints. Do you know the other side of your argument? And you can bam, bam, boom, get in one time. Is that on the rubric? No. It just says thesis. But, it just makes things, it really gives you a good taste in the mouth. Despite labor unions growing in membership since 1875 and establishing national labor unions, such as the Knights of Labor and the American Federation of Labor, labor unions suffered during the Gilded Age due to a lack of government support nationally and a bad reputation due to work disruptions and having radical notions that were counter to ideas of free market capitalism. Usually, I have 3 parts. It's 5 documents. Probably most of you just have 2. Maybe you might have just one major, generally specific claim. Maybe you can get away with that. It'd be an okay thesis. You're making an argument. I know I've spent so much time on this because I'm telling you, it's nothing like your intro. You make an argument. It's not just some general claim. Labor unions faced a lot of challenges in the Gilded Age. It's not a thesis. May pass in some worlds, maybe in the English world, maybe another world or something like that you're doing right, will not pass. That is, again, puking. It's vomiting. Just you make me sick with, a thesis statement like that. Just, Anyway, this is good. I've gotten my 2 points for sure. I know I have. If I submitted it in here for a grade. All right. And by the way, if I happened to, go back in time and I'm submitting an essay and I do remember what I got on my AP test or like that, who knows? I might not get a perfect score, but I may definitely will get a pretty high score because I'm accumulating points. Body paragraph number 1. Every paragraph should link and connect back to your thesis. Legislation was passed during the Gilded Age to address abuses by big business. It's here that maybe I could have quoted Gilded or maybe capitalization. Again, they're not, I don't know if that, Gilded, A should be capitalized too. They're not doing that. Sherman Antitrust 1890, targeted monopolies. Again, each paragraph, those 2 paragraphs that's in the middle here should be like an essay. Intro, body, conclusion. That's the way I've learned it, but I don't know how you guys are learning it. But also targeted strikes that broke up interstate commerce. In addition, The Interstate Commerce Act in 1887 did not have much enforcement power to regulate big business. To get around unions, big business would have workers sign yellow dog contracts, which would obligate income employees not to join a union. The purpose, notice I'm getting my middle 5 points here, right? Because I'm using phraseology like the purpose. For at least two of your documents, you're going to have to say, what is the situation? All right. Again, it's like, what's happening? Like, again, what is the situation? What is the audience? All right. What is the point of view? And what is the purpose? Not all of them. You choose which one that jumps out to you that's obvious that you can say, well, what was going on during this time? You don't always have to use like the purpose, the intent of the Western Union that shows. There's nothing wrong with using purpose, the audience in your essay. Kind of signals to the grader how they can check you off on their rubric. Purpose of Western Union's contract is to make sure employers do not join a union. And this was legal during the Gilded Age. Doc 3. Purpose and context. I'm giving you context already right here. I'm giving you interpretation. There's another point here because I'm interpreting. People like to say this. I don't want you to just describe documents. Describing documents will make you just copy or says, this is like handing me an excuse for an absence like that and everything, say, oh, this is just an excuse for my absence. You're not interpreting what's in there. You have to interpret in there to get, your point. So interpret what it means. And I just annotate at the end. And notice that my annotation is different from the example I gave you. It's no written rule. I'm just trying to get my grade of what I'm referring to. The most of the events would take place even before the government would address real concern by labor unions. The Haymarket Fair in 1886, the Homestead Strike in 1893 that left many local citizens authorities dead, showing the negative consequences of work stoppages and protests getting out of hand. I did use Doc 4. You see, that's what happened. I did it on the fly here. Didn't think I was going to do that in the planning stage. But it's bonus for me. It just fit. It flowed. Only after many years of protests and public outcries did the government start addressing and looking into rights of workers instead of the captains of industry. Examining Samuel Gompers, again, a leader of the Skilled Workers Union, the American Federation of Labor testimony 1899 to the House of Representatives Committee, one can see evidence of his plea for workers' rights, encouraging help from the national government. All right, this paragraph continues, okay, because I want to use it to help my thesis. I'm connecting my thesis. Right now, I'm showing you how it's positive. It's really good. So I don't know if that really helps me at this point. His attendant audience is not only for the House members, but the general public itself, suffering through some bad public incidents and images by labor unions and labor leaders. During this time, there were no federal laws regulating overtime, work hours, minimum wages, or child labor on there. So I'm using the saying that, hey, by 1899, though, it will take a turn of the century thing here for it to be, for it to have a positive impact in here. So only after many years of protests and public outcries. So I'm saying it takes a lot of years. So during this time, you have a lot of negative things happen with labor unions. So, Mr. Gompers the document finally shows here that it really, but you have to look at it, it's at the close of the Gilded Age. It's not during the meat and potatoes of the Gilded Age where labor unions are down. They're down. All right. Not during the Progressive Era when they begin to rise. They start regulating the trust. All right. Body paragraph number 2, newspapers and magazines could also contribute to these negative images of labor unions. Famous cartoons of the Gilded Age, Thomas Nast, who usually targets political machines like Tammany Hall, throwing in extra kind of knowledge there, outside information, depicts workers destroying their life, which deserves a point, destroying their livelihood as a communist union leader agitator looks unfavorably. His point of view, labor unions are bad for the country, especially big business, was a rising tide for all Americans. The reputation of some of these labor unions becoming known for harboring radical ideas as almost revolutionary and contradictory to American values. You notice I didn't capitalize American. I should have. but it's not going to affect my grade because my essay is fly. All right. So communists overthrow the social state of private enterprise. Nash uses the fable, the goose that laid the golden egg, to apply to radical unions that would destroy prosperity and progress for all the immediate selfish gains. I have interpretation. I have point of view on here. So I'm interpreting, describing, and I have point of view. The New York Times reporting the Great Royal Strike of 1877 ends with a very sympathetic feeling towards unions, writing about local sport. But you say I got two butts, and you're like, I wouldn't want that. I probably would almost cross that out. So, but even the opening lines of this report counters this sympathy by saying the strike is apparently hopeless, led by ignorant leaders. They use that terminology. They're dumb. This editorial reinforces part the prevailing evidence all these documents that labor unions are unsuccessful and led by inept or radical leaders, while workers are striking for better wages, shorter work hours, and overall better work. And the strikes report in the papers are getting off a negative image, using it to support my argument. So that's what you need. You're going to have some documents that's opposing your argument, so you have to make them work for you. You have to acknowledge that. Bam. Ready for that unicorn point that I'm probably not going to get. My conclusion is a little weak here. So, and I don't think it has really a large, it shows some kind of change over time, but not really complexity. You still get a 7 or 8. Try to restate your thesis. If you get to your conclusion, it's the hardest point to be awarded. The Gilded Age was not conducive to labor unions or even conducive for favorable government legislation. Kind of restating, the laws that were passed were even used against labor unions from the 1886 and the from 1886. And the Haymarket Affair publicizing should be from 1886, I will say that. And publicizing several police being killed by radical strikers that many newspapers report caused and incited by members of the Knights of Labor. We don't know. Again, Knights of Labor are just, are given the blame for this. To the Pullman strike that hampered coal and commerce trade in the United States of 1894. Unions were looked in a negative light. Just you're not even transferring basic necessities that people need, like again, communication, like mail and even coal. So they are just really, again, they are a problem. They do not help. You think about unions today have bad reputations. Again, they have, a lot of people have a lot of positive things when they mention labor unions. I do, how I feel about that, but I'm not in the majority when it comes to like how most people feel about labor unions. Union movement would not die out and would even flourish in the progressive era, finally achieving limited favorable labor legislation such as the Adamson Act in 1916. I don't know why I got in, and probably in curtailing Standard Oil. Standard Oil, I'll make that correction right here, curtailing Standard Oil in the Supreme Court by the way of the Supreme Court. 1911. So just a little review. All right. Unions have survived, but are struggling in the present day to receive widespread acceptance. Again, I could say it, showing change over time. I don't know. I don't know if I even like myself reading it right now. It's like, this is not complex. This is standard, pretty ordinary, banal. If I want to read, I would take some time to really get in some more very complex understanding. And don't worry, there are examples, and I could give you an example, but this video, as you know, some of you probably have not made it even this far. Hopefully you'll refer back. And the last thing here is just some, hopefully that you guys will see that there's some other prompts that you can practice with. I want you to practice, you may not have to do the whole essay, but you definitely, Tom Riches have put up a couple of essays that you guys can practice with here. So, and again, this has one about the revolution. I think is this the Revolutionary War one? I evaluate the importance of different causes, and it's good review for you. So we have a whole month on here, and there's a I don't have to, I'm not going to press down. The other one's U.S. Constitution. We have a whole month for you guys to get content down. And then we're going to start going back again, practicing, our essay, right? You're doing an AP classroom. You're reading and analyzing documents. You're already working. Hopefully you're working on your intros, your thesis statements. What is your body of evidence? How are you going to integrate these documents? Questions? Email in that email heading. I will, again, like to emphasize, I'm sending out a video to your parents too. I want to hear from everybody. I want to hear, that, from the, first video on here that I said that you're either going to say, I watched these videos, I understand what's going on, even if I had to skim through them, or you're going to say, I'm not planning to take the APUSH test. I don't need to know the details. There's some, a lot of things kids are going through and families are going through at this time. And I don't know the circumstances at this. It will not affect your classroom grade. But you need to keep on doing your assignments, keep on doing your state classes, all that good jazz. I know it's been too long and everything. I'm going to end this. Love you all. As I always say, love you all. Love you all. Okay. Take it easy and, Excelsior.